Welcome to, we are going to be talking about leadership. So if that's what you want to hear, you're in the right room. Congratulations, welcome. Wanted to start out by just introducing you to our community leadership team at the Island Institute. Brenna and I will be presenting today, but there's 4 of us on the team. So if you want to talk about leadership, we are the team to talk about it with you after this presentation. So my name is Kate DeGuy. I'm the strategic lead for our community leadership and Island Fellows programs at the Island Institute. I've been working on leadership and our iLead program and thinking about leadership for 8 years now with the Institute, and for many years before that in various different roles. So this is a topic that's near and dear to my heart. I'm really excited to share with you the work we've been doing on it recently today. And I will pass it over to Brenna to introduce herself.
Hi, good morning. I'm Brenna Cohen. I'm new to the Island Institute. I just started about 3 months ago, and I'm not new to leadership training. And every time I hear Kate and Karen talk about our leadership framework, I learned something new. So I'm really looking forward to this conversation. Karen.
Hi, I'm Karen Burns, and I won't be presenting today. I'll kind of be in the background, but I am lucky enough to work with Kate and Brenna on our leadership programming at the Island Institute, and I'm thrilled to be here today to seeing all of you guys and hearing more about the work that we've done and how it may apply to your work.
Thanks. We also have another person on our team, Abby Roche, who is not here today, but she is also part of spearheading our leadership work. So that's the community leadership team. And we'd love to know who you are and where you're coming from today and what brought you to us. There's a bunch of us, so we won't be able to do it all verbally, but if you could put into the chat box who you are, where you're from, or what organization hat you're wearing today, and just something you'd like to learn today. What brought you to us today? What made you choose this particular workshop today? We know there was a wonderful selection of choices, so we're glad you chose to be with us, but why? We want to know why you're here, and that will help us make sure you get the most out of being here today. So go ahead and put that in the chat whenever you're ready. And as you're doing that, I am going to reshare my screen and just talk with you a little bit to start out about why this leadership framework came to be and how. And don't worry, it's not going to be me talking the whole time. You'll get to dig into it. As I talk, one of the things Brenna is going to share with you a link to our leadership framework, which lives online. So love for you to take a view of that, check that out. And going to share my screen. All right, hopefully you can see the Resilient Leadership Framework. This is, although we've been working on leadership for a long time at the Institute, we decided this is a new tool for us. So we've been working on this for a long time. We're really excited to share it with you today. And so this framework came with some goals and some vision for what we wanted leadership to be like. In talking to communities, in talking to folks who work and live along the coast, we very quickly came to realize that leadership is really the underpinning of all the things. We need good, strong leadership to be able to meet the challenges that we're facing. And it's really the backbone of what's going to make us successful. It's a really important piece of all of the things. No matter what topic we're talking about, leadership is really important. One of the things to understand about how we talk about leadership specifically is we're not only talking about people who have positions of leadership, who are the executive directors or the chairman of the board. We're talking about everybody. Anybody can have leadership skills, and I think we all need to think about the skills that we're building in terms of leadership and how we can lead, even if we don't have positions of leadership officially, because everybody needs to be a leader. We all need to band together, right? So one of the goals we had for this framework was that it was radically useful, that it came with tools, that these were a thing that wouldn't just be developed and sit on the shelf, but that it would help people engage with this idea of leadership and what it means. It can be a big idea. There's lots of different ways to define what leadership is and to think about leadership. And so we wanted to develop something that was useful to the work that we were doing up and down the coast. So one of our goals was to make it radically useful. The other one was that it can be used internally in an organization, specifically in the Institute, to develop leadership at every level of the organization, and that it could be developed and used by the folks that we're working with in community, and not just by a specific subset of people, but by anybody who wants to develop some leadership and really talk deliberately about leadership skills. So our long-term vision for this is that Maine's island and coastal communities are invested in creating strong leadership. We believe so strongly in this that it's one of our impacts. It's what we're working towards, one of three things that we have said we are working towards in creating strong leadership and maintaining that social resilience. And to do that, we're making sure that leaders have skills and resources to work within the community. So this is part of the resource that we're building with this framework. This is part of the skills and resources that we're providing to folks. So that's really why we decided to do this work. In the fall of 2020, we started digging into what other people had said about leadership. To see what some of the people across the country, across the world think very differently and deeply about leadership. And we wanted to know what they were saying about it. So we really dug into what they were saying. We read a lot, brought in different ideas to the table. We looked at our own programmings and the things that we had done in our leadership experience working with leaders across the coast for 35 years at the Institute. We brought all of that information. And then we started collecting stories. What are the stories of leadership? When we sit down and we ask people, tell us a story about a good leader, who is it that they talk about? What is it that they talk about? What is it that they mention when we ask them to think of a leader? If you take a moment and think about a leader in your life, somebody that pops up when we say, who is a good leader in your life? There's a set of skills and a set of a presence that comes to mind for that. We wanted to hear those stories, and that was, we turned that into data about what were the skills that we were hearing mentioned again and again. This spring of 2021, we actually sat down and we built the framework. We took all the data with the help of an organization that's based in the Midwest, that's helping us do this work. We all sat down and took a deep look at the data and pulled out, what it was actually telling us, created the framework. This summer, we've been building products and trainings and really thinking, okay, now we have this framework of 7 competencies, which is the screen that I was showing you when you came in, which is the website link that Brenna shared. How do we actually make this useful? What needs to go around this for it to be useful in catalyzing these conversations that we want to have? And then this fall into this winter, we're taking the tools and the activities that we've developed, and we're talking with people about it. And we're seeing what works, what doesn't work. How are we going to apply this? So today we're actually going to get a chance to delve into one of the tools we've adapted and see how it works. And then once we practice this and try it out, we're going to evaluate it. We're going to adapt it, and we're going to continue to build tools and collect stories about leadership. So this work doesn't have an endpoint. It is ongoing, and will only get better. So the framework that I'm talking about is this beautiful color wheel. You'll notice that it is very deliberately designed in that the colors aren't static. They bleed into each other, they blend. And that's a deliberate design choice that we made because these 7 competencies all relate to each other. There's no, you can't put them in a box. To promote engagement, you need to communicate effectively. To communicate effectively, that helps you build relationships. Building relationships helps you navigate systems. They are all interconnected in a web. And one of the things that we're looking at with this tool is not just how these skills show up in individuals, but also how they show up in teams. Teams can be leaders, irrespective of the individuals involved. If the individuals are all working together, that team can show leadership within an organization. Organizations can show leadership. What does that look like? It looks a little bit different to say that organization is showing leadership. It might be about the individuals, but it's bigger than just any single individual. It's about people working together. We wanted a way to capture what it is, what happens, and how can we really look at and try and replicate what happens, that magic that happens when people are working together really effectively. Everybody is showing leadership when they come around the table. And it's moving an organization forward. It's moving a team forward so that they can really show leadership. And what does that look like? So that's why in the rings around this, you can really see it's about individuals, but it's also about teams and about the organization as a whole. So I've just showed you this. What surprised you about it? I'm going to go back so you can, oops, I'm going to try and go back so you can look at it. And there's only a few of us in here, so you can unmute, but in seeing this, I know you've just come across it, but what are the surprises? What do you notice about this framework? No surprises.
Hi, this is Joan Falk here. I see the chart is having a lot of strong sense of motion about it. It looks like it's been around different directions.
Yeah, there's a motion to it. And there's not a hierarchy to it.
Right.
Yeah. We shared this with some students from Maine Maritime Academy, and one of the students looked at this and he said, well, this looks like the leadership components for the Marines. I think there were 10 different skills he had to memorize that were the leadership tenets that the Marines were asked to learn and embody. And he said, this tracks with that. That surprises me because this is coming from a nonprofit and that's the military, and yet they're so similar. And he shared that with us. And we said, oh yeah, these are really similar. That's surprising, but also shows us that we're on the right track.
I'm not sure that it surprises me, but I really embrace it in that it honors the human element, the systemic element, and the ever-evolving element of all of those in a very succinct way, and that energy is there in terms of your intentionalness and the design that you chose.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing, Diana. So now we're going to ask you to try it out. And I am going to stop sharing my screen and do a little bit of behind the scenes motion. Brenna is going to drop another link into the chat with a Jamboard. And
Looks like we need access, Brenna.
Shoot. And we will very quickly get you access, which I thought I had sorted beforehand. But so I will talk you through what we're going to do so you are well suited, and then hopefully while Brenna sorts out the access issues, so hopefully we can get you into the Jamboard. What we want you to do is that we're going to randomly assign you to a breakout group. And each breakout group is going to have one of these competencies. And we want you to talk a little bit about it and think a little bit about one of these competencies within your smaller breakout group. It might have one or two or three other people in it. So it's going to be fairly small. So you can have, some really good conversations. We recognize you're just coming to these skills. But within the Jamboard, so if you're assigned to the develops effective connections and relationships, we've given you a little bit of a cheat sheet to say, what does this mean? It means you can make hard decisions while maintaining respect. It means you can actively listen. It means you can facilitate conversations. So we've given you a little bit of a reminder of what that means. You can bring your own meaning to it in terms of what you think develop effective connections and relationships means. We also you can have it pulled up on the website. So there's a little bit more of an in-depth explanation of it on our website. So what your task is going to be in the next 20 minutes that we have for this activity is to think about the competency that we're going to give you. Take a minute to think to yourself and answer one of the sentence stems that's on the sheet. So I've got some example sentence stems you can see here. There's 3 or 4 for each example. They're all a little bit different, but they're meant to try and get you to think about this a little bit. So, you can shut off your video if you want to take a minute to think. And when you're in your small groups, choose a sentence stem that really resonates with you, and finish the sentence. And then we'll give you some time to talk about it. Talk about the competency, talk about what you think is in there and what it means, and then how you answered your sentence. So the example, I found it helpful to encourage group innovation when is the sentence stem. And I answered it with when the group runs into a roadblock. So if I'm in a group and it's really coming up against a roadblock, sometimes getting out the creative brainstorming energy can get us over that roadblock. So what we're going to ask you to do is as you answer the sentence stems, feel free to write it down for yourself as you're doing your thinking. When you share it with the group, you can pull up a sticky note. If you're familiar with Jamboard, the sticky note is over on the left-hand side of the screen. You can type your answer. Save it, and then you can put it on the bottom of the screen. So on each of these, I've given you space at the bottom. There's not a lot of space, but giving you space at the bottom to put sticky notes. You can put as many sticky notes as you want with thoughts, notes, as you think, to really use this as a place to brainstorm and think about the competency that you've been given as you talk with your team. So any questions about what we're asking you to do for the next bit of time here?
Will it be obvious what group we're in?
Yes. Brenna is working diligently behind the scenes. Hopefully this is going to work to rename the group. So when you're assigned to a breakout group, the name of the breakout group will be the name of the competency that you are a part of. And if it's not clear, you can choose a competency. If you get there and you go, wait, what was our competency again? Just choose one that resonates with the group. But we wanted to try and save you some time. So the name of your breakout group should be the name of the competency. And when you are able to get into the Jamboard, hopefully you can get into the Jamboard.
I've just changed the access to the Jamboard and then named all of the breakout rooms. When I open up the rooms, you'll go into your breakout rooms.
So you might have to click through to get to your page, but all the competencies are in here. So you might have to navigate a little bit through the Jamboard, and we're happy to help talk you through if that gets confusing. But you navigate to the page you're on and then create notes. Questions about what we're going to do? All right. We're going to give you 20
One
minutes.
quick thing. Okay, if you have opened up the Jamboard, just click refresh and then you should have access to it rather than viewing only.
All right, so hopefully this is going to work. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so we can all see each other. And ask Brenna to launch the small breakout rooms. So if you need a minute to think when you get into your breakout room, please take a minute to think. We'll let you know when a minute has passed by, and hopefully this will work.
Kate, it looks like Marcy needs to be assigned to a group. Marcy trained.
Sorry, I just joined.
Hi, Marcy. It's nice to see
Hi,
you.
Marcy.
Hi.
We're setting people into breakout groups to think about the leadership competency. So the breakout, the Jamboard page has the things on it, but it looks like you're on your phone, so you might not be able to page, but you can, with the title of the competency, you should be able to bring your own thoughts to it. Hi, Jean.
Can't hear her.
Ian, did you see your invite to your room?
No. Well, yeah, I clicked on it and I was in it with James, but he asked me if I was on the Jamboard, and I said that prompt was on another screen, and so I came back here and I don't see it now.
We will share that with you again.
Okay. In the chat? Are you gonna?
Yep, I'll drop it right in the chat.
Okay.
Thank you. That might be a problem
You're
for
welcome.
others. You know what? I'm going to drop that in the message that I send out to everybody.
Okay, I see jamboard.google.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. I'll go there.
And I just added it to all of the rooms. So hopefully everybody will get it again.
Okay, the screen that came up is Kate's slides 1 through 12, Master Leadership Framework.
So
Yep.
if you click the arrow at the top, there should be a up where it says 1 to 12.
Yep.
You should be able to click the right-hand arrow and it will send you to the next frame.
Okay. Develops effective connections and relationships.
Yep. So just keep clicking until you get to the one you were assigned. I'm not sure which one you were assigned.
Oh,
Communicates effectively is the one you were assigned to.
And then Brenna can hopefully drop you back into your breakout group. Communicates effectively is the third one.
so then I just click on that, the blue title, and that'll take me there.
If you if you're on the page, then you can click on the left-hand side, there's a sticky note.
Okay,
Or you can use a text box, and either one will let you write your own thoughts on the page.
And Jean, you're going to see that title, communicates effectively. It should be
Yes.
on your screen. So you need to click on that and that will bring you back to your breakout room.
okay, I'll try that. Right click or
Hmm,
no?
that's a good question. Hmm,
There's
Think
three
for
dots
mine,
above it.
what's
Three
that?
dots. Should I do order?
Hmm,
Nope, you're actually on the Jamboard page. Brenna is talking about the Zoom. So back in Zoom, there should be a pop-up box that's going to put you back into your breakout room.
So return to the beginning.
On your Zoom screen, unfortunately, it's not, I don't see it on my window. So I'm trying to remember what it's like to be a participant and join a breakout room. So actually, I can just put myself in one and then we can do it together.
Brenna, why don't you go with Jean into communicates effectively?
Okay, let's see what happens.
Uh-oh. Is there a pop-up window for you, Jean?
There is the communicate effectively with what it means, and then sentence stems. And there are two sticky notes on here.
Yep, that's the Jamboard. So that's what you'll be working on.
So Kate, what I'm gonna do, Jean, it might be a little confusing, is I'm gonna move you to a different group and then I'm gonna pop you back in that group. So you'll have to hit twice to get back to where you need to be, but I don't know how else to have you rejoin. So
Okay.
I'm gonna move you, you'll get bumped into the self-awareness group for 3 seconds, and then I'm gonna move you to the communicates effectively group, and hopefully that'll drop you back in, okay?
Okay, I will follow your directions.
Yeah, so join that group that just popped up.
Yep.
Now I'm gonna move her back in.
Oops.
She hasn't joined.
Yay, technology.
Oh, she didn't understand. Oh no, I'm trying to figure it out. You're back. Let's see.
And hearing everything.
Yep.
Yep.
Trying to understand. Did you go into another group briefly?
I saw a guy and I said I needed to get on this board. And so I came back and got stuck here.
You're stuck with us, Jean. I'm sorry.
Okay, well, are we communicating effectively?
I hope so.
It's so hard to communicate effectively when you can't.
What I was going to say about communicating effectively was that listening is the most important part of that.
Yes,
Yes,
without a
absolutely.
doubt.
I find myself sometimes wanting to make my point and just trying to get it in there. And so I sort of block out what somebody else is saying so I can get my point in. And I miss that important part of the communication.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think
I was going to ask if you can think of someone who you feel like really communicates effectively. What do you see in them?
The ability to tell stories around ideas that may be complex. Give good examples that makes me see it immediately. We're having, is this just you and I and Kate talking right now?
Yeah.
Okay. But are we recording?
We can pause for a minute if you'd like.
And now everybody is back from their Zoom sessions. Welcome back. I am going to hand it off to Brenna, who's going to finish us out today.
Great. Thank you, Kate. That was really fun, actually, because of the technical challenge. Kind of, we navigated a system, and I was able to participate in a conversation with James. So I'd love for us to reflect back on how this went. You know, did the sentence prompts help you talk about a particular skill, or did you think about it in a different way? Feel free to go ahead and unmute and just pipe in. Or we can also go group by group. So I'll give it a second, and if somebody wants to jump in, go for it. And then if not, I'll just start calling on groups.
I'll jump in real quick.
Thank you.
Hi, Bill Travaskis. We had a small group, but we were navigating systems. We're looking at navigating systems, and I think a lot of our discussion stemmed from past experiences as leaders and maybe with leaders. And we were looking at, I think, the first prompt, which was asking essentially, what does a successful leader navigate well? And it was kind of a wide swath, but one of the last things we talked about was navigating the history of the situation or the circumstance to which they're going into or working within, so that they have prior knowledge of, what's going on.
Thank you. How about someone from the influences change?
We had Diana and I had a great conversation using the prompts. We toiled a little bit with the technology, but we caught onto it pretty quickly. And I found that the prompts not only helped us generate our own responses, but then brought about a greater conversation, a more in-depth conversation about our particular situations in leadership. One of the really interesting things was Diana pointed out the need to, when you're nurturing flexible, resilient responses to change, leaders need to acknowledge the transitions the change is going to bring, and acknowledging that some people are going to feel a sense of loss about it. And then the leaders really need to make space for that and provide supports for the change. That was very interesting to me.
Yeah, thank you.
So we had a good conversation.
Diana, did you want to add something?
No, I think the stems, the sentence stems help to kind of put a framing around, because there's a bunch of experiences you can select from, and so the prompts help to kind of narrow the focus of an experience I might want to talk about, and then from what vantage point or what perspective. So I found it helpful.
Great. How about another group?
Yeah, I'll jump in. Daniel and I were in the group about promoting engagement, and I just want to piggyback off of something Joan said about creating space. And I think in order to promote and engage your team or your organization, an effective leader has to create that space in order for the team to fill it with ideas and their work, instead of stepping in and really doing the work for the team. So, you know, and yeah, so that was something that I was thinking about as I was reading through the 3 prompts, is how does a leader effectively create a space where an organization and team can do the work that they're called to do.
Yeah. Nice. How about just thinking about the innovation group? Anyone want to share some thoughts from that conversation? Sarah? Yeah.
Sure, I can. There, Sam and Ryan and I were in it, and we started with, as a leader, how often do you encounter situations when innovation is needed? And all of us have been in education settings before, so we went like all the time, in education in particular. But also, we talked particularly about some of the challenges with that kind of framework of that kind of fear of the change and fear of the new thing, you know, innovation, and how to kind of work with that, kind of getting around like the we've always done it this way before kind of idea. And also thinking about how to, when you've got diverse people, particularly diverse people and maybe even limited resources, those can be similar, they can be tied, they cannot be tied sometimes, but how to tap into the lived experiences of the different experiences of that group, and what they might be able to bring to bear in terms of innovation, but also how might you reach them in whatever you're trying to innovate. So really, how do you both honor and respect, but also not take advantage of it in a bad way, but invite those perspectives that might grow in innovative ways.
Right.
Sam or Ryan, I may have totally like not summarize that in the way that it should be.
No, I think that was great. Yeah, I think we talked about innovation in that sense, and I think Sarah, you also brought up a good point, which was, you know, working with your team, whatever that looks like, to you know, differentiate between like tinkering and really innovating. Like, what is, you know, a minor change versus like, you know, what things are we doing that need to be changed slightly, and what do we need to be entirely rethinking, and kind of starting from a clean slate as well.
Nice. So that also brings us to how we think about this moving forward. You know, can you apply this? How would you see yourself applying this in your work? And I know we've got some folks here in education, some in business, some other areas.
So, speaking for myself, I was a science teacher. I'm now an oyster farmer, and I'm in charge of a team on the water. And I think a lot of times, you know, I assume that people have gotten to wherever I've gotten in my head, in their head, on their own. And I don't take the time necessarily to stop and, you know, see if they recognize a situation as a problem, or recognize that there is a problem in the first place. And I think when I skip that first step, it's pretty hard to, if you haven't gotten everybody to the table thinking that you're trying to solve the same problem, it's pretty hard to do anything after that. So that's, you know, a big error on my part sometimes, I think. And I would love to get better at that in my work.
Yeah. Does anyone else have some thoughts about how they would use this?
I think for me, with systemic change, it's there are good reminders there in terms of, and Sam's, your point in terms of, that really resonated with me in terms of, I make I know I make those assumptions from time to time, like preparing for something, thinking through something, planning just the context for a conversation, and realizing to the conversation that I'm making assumptions that people are starting in a place where my head is at. And I haven't given enough space for understanding where people are coming in with, in terms of their thoughts and their experience and what their perceptions of whatever it is we're talking about is. And so it's a good reminder for me as I work around that circle in terms of, am I really making space for everyone to come in from the place that they are at into the conversation and contributing, and finding that common space of our perspectives. Where are we with our perspectives on whatever it is we're discussing?
Yeah. That came up in our conversation James and I had about communicating and thinking about the tone that we use, and what do we do when we're in a conversation or in a situation with someone who's ideologically very different than we are.
Mm. Mm.
So we would love your feedback on the tools that we shared, and as we continue to refine them. So Kate has just dropped a form in the chat where you can give some feedback on the sentence stem tool or the presentation. And then the other thing is we're continuing to gather these stories of interesting and effective leadership and really courageous leadership. So as you move about your day and the following weeks, think about if anybody comes to mind, whether it's an individual or it's a team or an organization that you see as a great example of leadership. Kate has just dropped that other link in the chat, and you can go ahead and fill it out, and it'll give you a way to think about that leadership through the lens of the framework that we've just been working on or talking about. Does anyone have any questions for any of us?
Is there a poster of the framework? Because that would be cool to hang up in my classroom, actually.
Oh, I like that. Well, we do have it on our website, and you can. I'm thinking you could print it out. I have this here. I've been carrying this around when I go out to visit with various people because I find it's they often haven't had a chance to log into the internet and pull it up. But yeah, you could do that, or maybe another activity is to actually have your students make the wheel. You make your own poster and then you can take a photo of it and show it to us.
Yeah, that's a good idea. They can put their own thoughts on it too.
Yeah, like that. Any other questions or comments come up? Yeah, Douglas.
Yeah, I'm curious how the Institute helps leaders kind of continue to be flexible thinkers, because, you know, once you get into a leadership position, you can easily be entrenched in like, oh, this is how I do it, and this is how I've been really successful as a leader. How do you encourage leaders to stay open and flexible in their thinking and encouraging ideas from their teams? Just what are some of the lessons you've learned as you've worked with leaders?
I'm going to pass that one on to Kate because I know she's got a wealth of experience on that.
I mean, I think that can be challenging to maintain that flexible thinking. My favorite tactic is to ask questions and to turn it back to the leaders and ask them about situations. I also think that doing trainings like this and getting folks to think a little bit high level about skills and about what it is to be a leader can sometimes get folks to think about their own personal situations in a different way when you're a little bit high level. So, that's what our iLead trainings did a lot of, were to get people into a room to kind of talk about what it means to be a leader, what it means to be a leader in a certain space. Talk with others who are in similar situations and coming up against similar challenges, because they're thinking about it differently. And so having a conversation with someone who's also thinking about it differently, but in the same position as you are, dealing with similar challenges, can be very eye-opening. And then giving some time for self-reflection. Sometimes it's enforced in our leadership trainings. People are like, I hate this. And they'll come back and say, oh, but this was actually really useful to take the time to actually think very deeply about this, which isn't something a lot of us take time in our normal lives to make space for, is that reflection. So I think those are, the ability to reflect, talking with others and getting more ideas in the room, and talking about things at a high level, kind of taking it out of context to think about some of the nuts and bolts of what goes into leadership, can help people, I think, sometimes approach things differently. But it is a challenge to maintain that flexible thinking, for sure.
We have 3 minutes left. Are there other burning questions or comments for us? Either of you have questions for each other? Okay. While you're thinking about those, we're going to add another, well, it's not really a link in the chat. If this sparks some further ideas for you, questions, if you think you'd like to share this with your team, your organization, your community, please let us know. I'm going to put my email in the chat, and Kate will as well. You can also reach out to Yvonne or Krista. And also we'll drop that link to the website in the chat as well.